Time to manage those pennies with Crystal Howell, our internal auditor. She helps us to do that every week, helps you to do it every week so that you can navigate this new COVID environment. Good morning, Crystal.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Doing?
We are
So
doing all
this
right, and we
morning,
hope that you are as well.
yeah, and this morning we are talking about benefit programs and employee assistance programs. Where do we start as we try to help our viewers to survive and thrive during the pandemic?
Well, we would have touched on this a bit last week when we spoke about employment benefits, but then we also would have gone into a little bit on exploring any potential grants that may be out there, and they do exist. Depending on the area that you're involved with, there are government grants for art programs, for persons who are into music and who want to develop small businesses. You just investigate the area that you are interested in to see what's available and out there. And there's some that offer up to $10,000 and $15,000 that could help to launch you into the small business that you have been putting off for a long time. So I encourage persons not just to rely on government related assistance programs, which, as we mentioned, have a very limited time period, but to also look in and to investigate what else may be out there that could help you to boost your small business.
Okay. As you mentioned grants, though, how would persons go about doing that? Because I've been told that grant writing is a skill. So, who should you seek out if you need assistance with that?
The Small Business Development Program has offered assistance in helping persons to understand how they should apply for grants properly. And I know one young lady for sure there with Ramona Grandison. She has been advertising and pushing for persons to understand exactly what you said, how to properly apply, because we just think it's a matter
Yes.
of a form and that's it. But what you write in that form, how you advertise and promote yourself and the idea that you have, it could make the difference as to whether persons will buy into your idea, which could be very good, but you just aren't able to sell yourself properly so that you would have the best opportunity available if your idea really is the winning idea.
Yeah. Thing is,
Indeed.
Crystal, Barbadians have a number of them. I find that generally the sense of the average Barbadian may not be to want to step into the avenue of entrepreneurship. Many people have become accustomed to going to a 9 to 5, earning that salary when the month comes. And of course, we're trying to change that mindset. How do we do that? I mean, even in COVID-19, it's almost like you have to have that change of mindset, but it's not so easy.
That's the um I guess the critical part of recognizing that number one, there is nothing inherently wrong with a 9 to 5, because even persons who have small businesses at some point they're going to want to employ persons. So I try to encourage persons not to make it seem as though a 9 to 5 is inherently bad, because every small business is going to want to grow hopefully and employ persons in what would become a 9 to 5. But yes, understanding that if you are going to take that leap as to being the owner, that your mindset is that you're going to be the one taking on a lot of the risk, and to understand that you don't have to do everything yourself. I think we mentioned it before, but there's so many different aspects to business that we would have been discussing throughout this entire program. Persons feel as though they have to do it all, which is simply not the case, or that everything has to be perfect, which again, I personally understand that very, very, very well. You want to make sure your website is on point, that your marketing plan is in place, that your financial budget has been thoroughly vetted and you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's. But in the meantime, you may be losing potential business. And there are ways that you can get your stuff out there. You start small, and then when you start to branch out, you make sure that before you do that, you have everything in place, yes, to make sure that when you branch out, that you can accommodate this additional demand. But start. That's the hardest part. Start, because sometimes when you do make sure that you prepare everything, you may not even have a product that matches the market demand. And you don't want to wait until you've invested everything that you have into this idea to then realize it does not suit the market and you have to rebrand. And a lot of the seminars that I've been listening to recently have been speaking to that, especially because of COVID. They would have had ideas before COVID, which now COVID has thrown for a loop. But persons have been reinventing and rebranding themselves and using all of these tools to be able to make sure that they can relaunch their products. So they have their monthly spending plans, they have all of these things in place just to make sure that they get these things done. And as you mentioned before, there's also nothing wrong with the 9 to 5. So if that means you have to beef up your resume and cover letter to see if you can go back out there, see if there's anybody hiring, there's still persons advertising in the newspaper for positions, you can do that as well. But if you look at your resume and cover letter and realize that you haven't really added anything to your skill set in a long period of time, this may be the time to explore, how do I show that I am still marketable? How do I show potential persons that I can do the jobs that are being advertised out there?
Hmm.
I want you to talk a little bit about, you know, the idea of maybe and doing something as a result of the circumstances that we find ourselves in, doing something that may not be like our first choice, not the thing that we really wanted to. Because I find sometimes in Barbados, people judge a lot, and we end up finding ourselves boxed in as a result of misplaced pride. So we end up with less industry or not being able to help ourselves. So what are your thoughts on doing things that may not be what we really want to do?
It's unfortunate that we have that mindset because innovation wasn't born out of coming up with a perfect idea. And a perfect idea doesn't come from the first try. So you have persons who take a chance on a new and innovative idea and they fail and they're forever branded as that failure, which is very unfortunate because it then stifles the very thing that we need to be able to get out of the rut that we are in where everybody
Yeah,
owns into certain types of businesses. So the one example that I really liked, and it's not even a new idea, but it was born out of COVID or grew out of COVID was the We Fetch and all of the food delivery ideas, but going to it on a large scale where it became the core business idea. And every disruptive idea that persons have been exploring and investigating, persons turned them down and made it seem as though this can't work. And then the Barbadian mindset, even to something like We Fetch, would not even have been there pre COVID. But we see that since
right.
COVID, it has blossomed. And even though that things have settled back down, people are still relying, myself included, on delivery services because you're not 100% comfortable with always going back out into the public unless you absolutely have to. So, coming out of a crisis, an idea that was not necessarily embraced has become a thriving idea. And even when that business was launched, it didn't launch as a perfect, it suited every single market, it had every single bug worked out, but they listened to the feedback of the customers and they put it in
Made
place.
a start. Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Crystal. Well said. Really good stuff there, as always. So we appreciate that, and we will catch up with you next Monday when we look at managing those pennies again.
That's fine. And thank you for having me again.